Hatshepsut was only the second woman to ever become pharaoh, and the first for nearly 300 years. The fearless queen oversaw military campaigns to Egypt's southern borders and claimed to have visited the battlefield herself. She built a fleet of ships to sail the Red Sea and re-established an international trade network, bringing back exotic goods and riches. Under Hatshepsut, Egypt prospered, and she built giant monuments across the country to show that she was in control. Hatshepsut's temple was just one of around 10 megastructures she built during her 22-year reign. Across the Nile, she erected vast swaths of a giant temple complex called Karnak and a 98-foot obelisk, the largest standing in Egypt today. But the extraordinary life of this radical woman still poses many mysteries. Now, archaeologists are on the hunt for new clues. The Sphinx is a mythical beast modeled on a lion, but with the head of a human. Others were carved with the head of a ram and are known as cryosphinxes. They act as guardians, protecting the entrances to pyramids, temples, and sacred sites. It's thought that Hatshepsut started the greatest display of sphinxes known to ancient Egypt. An avenue of sphinxes, enhanced over the centuries, stretching nearly 2 miles between the great temples of Luxor and Karnak. At Hatshepsut's temple, Dr. Zavransky is investigating the paintings she left on the walls. The imagery holds clues to Hatshepsut's life and reveals a family power struggle with her nephew, who was also her stepson, Thutmose III.
Here we see Hatshepsut, and behind her we have a figure of Thutmose III. We have 2 kings.
Images etched into these walls reveal the story of Hatshepsut's extraordinary rise to power. She was the firstborn of a royal family, but tradition dictated that only men could become the pharaoh. So power was granted to her infant stepson. But after 7 years of acting as his aide, Hatshepsut made an unprecedented move for power. She overtook her stepson and proclaimed that she was now the king of Egypt.
We see on the walls of this temple there are 2 kings, but Hatshepsut is always number 1.
Hatshepsut's power play was revolutionary. Evidence on a temple wall reveals Hatshepsut wasn't hiding her femininity. She was proving she was a pharaoh. A fake beard was a way to show a connection with the god Osiris. Even male pharaohs wore an artificial beard. But other items she wore were also reserved for men, like the famous headdress, the nemes, and the kilt. But she transformed herself with these symbols of power to strengthen her image across the kingdom. Hatshepsut dressed not as a man, but as a pharaoh. Prime spot in the mountain of the Valley of the Kings. So Thutmose III built his temple right next to it, but in an elevated position. Ancient builders constructed huge columns on top of a raised platform. Dr. Zavransky's team has figured out what this temple would have looked like and discovered its upper terrace was 11 feet higher than Hatshepsut's. A political power play by Thutmose to finally overshadow his stepmother.